So we're going to hear from the prime sponsor of 1199 or the prime sponsor's representative.
Thank you so much. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Senate Energy and Natural Resource Committee. For the record, my name is Representative Sarah DeVito. I'm here today as a co-sponsor of HB 1199, introducing the bill on behalf of Representative James Spillane, Chair of the House Fish and Game and Marine Resource Committee, who unfortunately has a critical work meeting and is unable to attend today. HB 1199 is a straightforward and practical bill. During the work of the House Fish and Game and Committee's long-term standing funding study, we identified a gap in accountability. In some cases, other state departments may require the assistance of Fish and Game personnel, equipment, and expertise in order to carry out activities or issue permits that involve Fish and Game's jurisdiction. Those departments may collect permit fees from the public or in some cases receive federal funds connected to those activities. However, Fish and Game currently has no clear mechanism to recover the cost of the staff time and resources they are required to provide. HB 1199 simply allows Fish and Game to create a permit and charge a fee to another state department when their personnel or resources are required, ensuring the department is not forced to subsidize the operations of other agencies using Fish and Game's dedicated funding. This bill is supported by the Fish and Game Department and the Fish and Game Commission.
Sorry.
This passed unanimously out of the House Fish and Game Committee and passed the House floor unanimously on consent. This is a small common sense step that strengthens the accountability and protects the financial integrity of Fish and Game's user-funded model. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I would respectfully ask for your support of HB 1199.
Thank you, Representative. Questions from the committee? Senator Rosenwald and then Senator Waters.
Thank you, and thanks for taking my question. On page 2, line 24, the first two words are unrestricted funds. Does that mean that the excess above the 5% would go to the general fund? Or would it stay within Fish and Game to be unrestricted?
I am not 100% sure because at the last moment I was asked to come and bring this for you guys, so I'm not sure, but I believe it stays with Fish and Game.
Senator, what line were you talking about?
So page 2, line 24.
24. I'm looking at.
The mention of unrestricted funds to me says general funds.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we could ask somebody for clarification.
Senator, if I might, if
Yeah.
you read the whole paragraph, it appears that all of the monies are deposited into the Fish and Game license fund. And I believe that would also pertain to the last line. Microphone?
Could we just check?
Yeah, sure. Microphone next time.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure.
Senator Waters.
Yeah, to that question, it references 20638. And so it says that's the executive director under the supervision of the commission shall have the exclusive power to expend for the protection, conservation, propagation, restoration of fish and so on. And so I think that I guess that's a question to our presenter. I think that if we wouldn't it be the case if we struck the word unrestricted, that we clarify that this was not going to general funds, but was as funds available for expenditure under that, because I think that's the intent of the rule of the law. Wouldn't that make sense? Yeah. All right, we'll work
That's
on
okay.
I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure.
That. And do you have any more questions, Cindy? Or
No, I think, I'm sorry, I missed the beginning of your statement, if I could.
Yeah.
Is it the intent that that money stay with Fish and Game? In which case it might be better to remove the word unrestricted.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, and I believe so. I believe the intent is for it to stay with Fish and Game.
Okay. Senator Waters, any more further questions?
Yes, I do. And if you can't answer this, I can ask somebody else. But what I'm wondering about is if we can get some kind of sense of how this money is going to flow, and particularly, it states certain amounts, $600,000 and $50,000 down at the bottom of the page, and I'm just wondering about the size of the fund and what we have there and what that leaves us with. I mean, is the 600,000 available now, or would it be when the increases occur, or just, do you have a sense of the overall fund?
Thank you for the question. And I'm not 100% sure, but I know there are others here that can speak to that, especially Fish and Game.
I'll ask Fish and Game folks when they're up, but thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Seeing no further questions, thank you for your time. And so we're going to call Rep. Jordan Ulrey. He was here just a second ago. Representative Ulrey. Oh, really? Okay. New Hampshire Fish and Game, Melissa. Melissa?
Yeah,
There you go.
she's here.
Okay.
You have a lot on 16, that's really a lot of people.
I think so, yeah.
Tell those.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Melissa Nemeth, the legal and legislative representative for Fish and Game Department. Fish and Game strongly supports this legislation. And I'll kind of go through, there's a few different elements to the bill, all of which are strongly supported by Fish and Game. The first section would allow the department to, if they're providing personnel, equipment, or expertise to other agencies, to come up with rules to charge a fee for those services. And it gives a transparent mechanism for the department to recover its actual costs for providing this support to other departments. In addition, we would support exempting agencies if they already have an MOU with the department for resource sharing, if those already include a financial component, and in the rulemaking would consider thresholds for things such as hours of time that are being utilized, frequency, the amount of dollars that would cost, to try to create consistent application. The second change is for related to the discounted lifetime license for infants. As it currently stands, a family can come and buy this up until before their child is a year old. So there have been a handful of instances in which families come in on the day of the child's first birthday. And since that is not before the child turns one, there was some concern that that wouldn't be within the spirit of the law as it stands. So this would clarify that and say, if you want to come in up through the first birthday of the child, this would allow that newborn license to be purchased on the first birthday itself. And the bigger part of this bill and the addition that was put onto it is it would create the Fish and Game Modernization and Sustainability Account. This would allow up to $600,000 from the prepaid license fund in both fiscal year 27 and fiscal year 28 to be transferred into this newly created account, and would also, though, require that the prepaid license fund not go below a minimum balance of $1 million. And then it would, beginning in fiscal year 29, it would allow $50,000 annual appropriation from that fund to be put into this new account. And the funds would be restricted to things such as improving business operations, technology, and the license sales and distribution system, enhancing the digital and operational infrastructure, and advancing public education and engagement through technology-enabled outreach. Really, what this will allow the department to do is invest in a new customer relationship management system, electronic system, which would not only strengthen the customer experience, it would help drive revenue growth, improve operational efficiency across the organization, and ensure that these funds directly support the efficiency, accessibility, and long-term sustainability of the organization. So for those reasons, we would strongly encourage you to vote ought to pass. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
So there is a question regarding online about the unrestricted funds. Do you want to delve into that a little bit?
So My understanding, and the 5% is already in the current law. I think the purpose of this was to allow for clarity there, or attempt to allow for clarity there in that those funds, what they can be utilized for, so that if those funds come to the department, as Senator Waters pointed out in RSA 20638, that gives the executive director, under the supervision of the commission, the ability to spend these funds. So it would, I think the goal is hope to open up opportunities to expend those funds, but it unrestricted in the sense that the purpose for which Fish and Game can use those funds in the Fish and Game account would not be restricted.
So.
So,
on-
go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, on that, you got it in front of you?
I have the bill. I do not have the statute
Yeah,
in front of
so
me.
Line 24, I think what we want to do is to take the word unrestricted and move it to just before the word expenditure. Okay, so it would read as funds available for unrestricted expenditure for any lawful purpose authorized under 20638. And that will, you see, that word unrestricted would bump it into general funds, but you want the unrestricted use of them in that 206.
Yes, and I think that was the intention. This
Yeah, I
whole
just think it didn't get-
paragraph is,
Yeah, I just didn't get it worded right. All right.
this
so
is the
thanks.
prepaid Fish and Game license fund.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be that the money,
As
it
amended.
stays in that fund, but the expenditures for which the department can use it would not be restricted.
Thanks, and I think this is a great bill. It's gonna do a world of good for the department, and so I appreciate it being brought forward.
Thank you.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the first purpose of this bill is to reimburse the department for loaning its staff to other agencies. I'm wondering about the word may on line 4, page 1. Because it doesn't require you to get reimbursed. It just says
Correct, and I
you
think,
might.
and I think that would all be addressed in the attempt would be to address that in the rulemaking to outline the instances in which there would be reimbursement.
Senator Pearl? I see a squirrel somewhere. No? All right. Senator, okay.
Yeah.
Senator Waters.
On that point, wouldn't it be fair to say that sometimes the Fish and Game Department has arrangements with other departments, and they actually may be receiving services, so in some cases, they'd like to have that flexibility to decide when they might do this.
Yes, that is the case. And as I mentioned, if there are MOUs already with other state agencies that have financial components, it would not be the expectation that they would also be charged a fee pursuant to this statute. That would probably be something that would be outlined in the rules as an exemption.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. So we're being asked to give up our constitutional authority on what the policy is and allow the department to set rules as it wants with no real parameters of when you would charge a fee. Is that correct?
I'm not sure I quite understand your question. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm only allowed to ask you questions, not explain
Oh,
things.
so I mean, I think that there's an outline in paragraph 2, and my numbers seem to be off on my line, so I apologize. In section 1, Roman numeral 2, it outlines the costs, including but not limited to. I think those are sort of the outline of the guardrails that would be utilized in rulemaking, if that helps to answer your question.
Senator Waters.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, the not limited to seems to give you unlimited authority in the rulemaking process to decide when other state agencies are going to be charged and when they're not. Am I correct?
Yes. there would be some more flexibility there.
Well, don't, this is your time. Go ahead.
No, I think that is a question for the committee to decide whether we want to
Yeah.
remove, including, remove not limited to,
Not limited to.
or what, I've been burned so often for rules that we make the policy.
Understood. Yep, Senator Waters.
Thank you. Isn't it the case that Fish and Game Department is a department which is by statute granted authority over a broad range of fees and other methods of charging?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other further discussion, questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to talk about this? Going once, going twice. Going to close the hearing on 1199. I wanted to exec it right away, but if
I would like to talk about it. I'm over exec.
Second.
all in favor? Any opposed, seeing none. Motion ought to pass, so we can have a discussion.
So moved.
Seconded by Senator Pearl. Discussion.
You know, to your point, Senator Rosenwald, I understand what you're saying about rules. This department is one which has in statute and for all kinds of reasons has authority over setting fees and so on. Sometimes we decide we want to set them and change them, but generally this is a department that has that authority. And in terms of that particular provision, whether it's search and rescue or other, you know, many activities, we have cooperative MOUs with other departments. I think this arises a lot out of what we did about the alteration of terrain and the other things that we changed, which, you know, put the authority over in DES, but said that, you know, there was the wildlife biologist would still perform some services and so on. So I think that this is a flexibility needed on that. And I do think in the rules making process, you know, we work pretty closely with the director, and I think there'd be a lot of consultation on that. But if we don't like what they did, we can come back and legislate. But I think this is an important feature, and then really important feature is the rest of the bill, which, given what has happened to the Fish and Game Fund with its, you know, diminishment and, you know, other things, that letting this be an opportunity to move that funding around to take care of some real essential needs. And a lot of that funding, I think, will be able to then be available for match to federal funds, which we have left to the table sometimes. So anyways, I hear your concerns about it, but I think that given the particular nature of the department, that this makes sense.
Senator Brewer.
Yeah. I mean, I get that Fish and Game has a lot of freedom and authority, but I also am aware that a couple of budgets ago, we had to give them general funds to pay the employee raises. So I just want to make sure that as we give up our constitutional authority to the rulemaking process, we could object to a rule and it could still go through. And our only choice would be to come back and change statute. So I just, you know, am concerned about language like not limited to. If those are the three things where they would charge other agencies, why would we add language that says it's not limited to?
Senator Waters.
Yeah, you know, I mean, on a larger question, I don't think we're giving up the constitutional authority because rulemaking is a legislative body. Now, you know, I've served on it and so on, but I just repeat that. If we don't like how a rule has ended up, we've done this many times, we can pass an explicit law. And
Right.
So I don't see the constitutional issue here. I think that there might be a particular need for consultation on this particular rulemaking, and I think we can do that. But anyways, I just to answer, to
But the-
respond.
The rulemaking is an executive branch function. If Gelcar doesn't like the rule, as long as there's somehow statutory authority for it, can't stop it without changing statute, which is,
Could delay it and then put in bill.
yeah, I
We've
mean,
done that a lot.
we have, but we have to then file more legislation.
Mhm.
It's just something I think
I
we ought to
get you.
think about. I
I
mean,
get you.
I don't have any issue with the bill. I think moving the word unrestricted to before expenditures is something we really should do for clarity. I just think we're giving up. I do think we're giving up constitutional authority.
So let's make a committee amendment on what, on the unrestricted part.
So do you have that?
You want to say as unrestricted funds available for lease?
No, we want to say, are you ready?
Yep.
As funds, you know, so cross unrestricted there, as funds, remove the comma after funds, available for, and then insert unrestricted before expenditure,
Unrestricted.
before the word unrestricted before expenditure. So it would read as funds available for unrestricted expenditure, et cetera, et cetera.
Expenditures or expenditures?
Expended.
Correct.
All right.
We do have an English teacher here.
Well, I can go either way. If you're, I want to make you happy. If you're not happy about the Constitution, I'll make you happy on adding S to expenditure. So, I'll second that amendment.
Senator
All
Pearl?
right, he seconded that. Let's say,
All right.
I think this is a good bill. I think it will really help the department and, Senator Rosenwald, I do understand your concern, but I think we've given the department the ability to do things similar to this in the past, and they've proved to be good about doing it and be responsible with it. So I'll support it the way it's written, but I do know and do understand your concern.
And the department is
I'm going
here,
to
right?
support it
Still?
too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you're listening, right? Yeah. Okay.
All
We
yours.
just want you to be all ears. Any further discussion? So we've moved the amendment. Is there a motion to pass as amended?
Well, you got to vote on the amendment.
Oh, I thought we already voted on it, no? All in favor of the amendment?
All right,
Any opposed? Motion,
Move to pass as amended.
second?
second by Senator Pearl. Discussion. And
why
Senator-
does this bill not have an FN? Is it because it's only fish and game funds? And so there are no,
I think
Big
it's
one?
possible that the original bill did not, and maybe this one hasn't caught up with it. If you want to bring it to finance, let's do that, to get this.
I mean,
Okay.
I couldn't, there were so many
The
versions
original
in
bill-
my
The original
book.
bill was, you'll see the original bill.
Yeah, there's no
The
FN on
original
that.
bill had no FN on it.
Right,
And the amendment, we don't have an FN on the amendment, but you can ask to be brought to finance if you want to get an FN.
but the original bill did have fish and game getting reimbursed with fees by other agencies.
Yeah.
So I feel a state cost in those fees to other agencies. And so I'm surprised that there was no event.
We can ask about it. But there wasn't.
I know, but it's weird.
We can ask.
It
Well,
looks to me like a money bill.
but it may be because of the nature of the department.
Maybe, but let's say
Doesn't-
they're
let's
getting
find out.
fees from the Department of Safety, that's gonna show up in safety's budget.
All right, so we have a motion to pass as amended. Are we ready for the vote?
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, do you want to consent?
Sure.
Yeah.
Consent.
And the second by Senator Pearl.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Rosenwald, would you like to take this out?
Oh, God.
I'm teasing
I'll
you.
do it.
Senator Waters will take it out. I was teasing you. All right, motion to move out of exec. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none. All right. So we have a lot of people here interested in this next bill. So I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes for the sake of, because we have other bills that are coming up. And if you have written testimony, we'd really appreciate it if you just pass it in and speak from your heart. It helps things go smoother. And if it's information that's already been said, it makes more sense just to speak from your heart and let us hear your passion with dignity, please. And with that, we're going to hear from the prime sponsor of 1603 FN. And Joshua, you will be the timekeeper. The prime sponsor doesn't have the 3-minute limit.
I went through and to shorten my speech to make sure I pulled it all in to be respectful of your time.
Okay, out. Okay, sign in, but we don't need your sign in here. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Representative Sarah DeVito. I'm from Rockingham District 8, and I am the prime sponsor of HB 1603. This bill is narrowly focused, intended to address a growing concern among property owners across New Hampshire regarding how endangered and threatened species claims are used to impose land use restrictions. When the state restricts the use of private land based on the presence of an endangered species, property owners should be able to rely on two very basic principles. The data used to justify those restrictions was collected lawfully, and that the information is verifiable and specific to the location in question. That is the purpose and the only purpose of this legislation. The amendment adopted by the House simply codifies two standards. First, agencies must obtain landowner permission before entering private property to collect biodiversity data, unless they obtain an administrative search warrant. And second, any data used to justify restrictions must be verifiable and lawfully obtained. This amendment that was passed also clarifies that land use applicants cannot be required to conduct new biodiversity searches as a condition of approval. The legislation does not weaken any conservation protections, does not interfere with federal endangered species requirements, and does not prevent agencies from carrying out their work. The amendment was developed after conversations with New Hampshire DES, the New Hampshire Farm Bureau, and the New Hampshire Timber Owners Association. It removed the provisions that originally generated a fiscal note. As a result, the House Finance Committee waived this bill. I would also note that the New Hampshire Fish and Game Commission reviewed this bill as amended and voted 9-1 in support of this legislation. This demonstrates confidence that the bill preserves New Hampshire's conservation responsibilities while improving transparency and clarity for landowners. There's also an important cultural aspect to this discussion. New Hampshire is unique in that a tremendous amount of our property privately owned land remains open for public use. Residents and visitors alike can hunt, fish, hike, and enjoy the outdoors, largely because property owners have historically allowed that access. However, that tradition depends heavily on trust. And in other parts of the country, particularly some western states, tensions between agencies and property owners have resulted in landowners posting their land and closing it off entirely to public access. That is the last outcome that we want to see here in New Hampshire. If property owners begin to feel that agencies may enter their property without their knowledge or rely on unverified information to impose restrictions, more land may be posted simply to prevent those situations from occurring. This bill helps avoid that outcome by reinforcing transparency and clear expectations. It simply codifies practices that agencies have indicated they are already supposedly following, ensuring that landowners know what to expect and that decisions affecting their property are based on verifiable information. When this trust exists, cooperation improves, conservation works better, and the public continues to benefit from access to the landscapes that make New Hampshire special. HB 1603 passed the House, and I respectfully ask the committee for your support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Senator Waters with a question.
Yeah, thanks so much, and thank you. So I have some questions about the kind of verification of accuracy of records for threatened and endangered wildlife records, including but not limited to the age of the data. What do you imagine is a process of verification would include? Is it to see what studies have been done, or the wildlife action plans, maps and things, or something else?
I think that it could be at the discretion of the people collecting or looking at the data. It could be simply verifying that the person collected the data is someone with an agency rather than. Let me back up. Thank you for the question. And second, right now on the website, there are forms where anyone can go and pull off a form, and you can submit if you see animals on property. At the top, it says in fine print, we encourage you to get landowner permission. It doesn't say that you must, but it is saying that you should. It doesn't say anything about posted land. So anyone at that time can take this form and fill it out and submit it. What we are asking is that the documentation actually be thoroughly vetted. That it's not just something that a neighbor or someone that's hiking through land says, oh, I see a turtle, or I see a bird, or I see a habitat that looks like this, or I see scat that I think could belong to this animal, and turn it in, and it gets marked on that land that animal has a habitat on that land. We want it verified to make sure that it actually is, in fact, accurate.
I may follow up on that. Just a couple of things. I just, in general, I just want to make sure we're not going to put ourselves potentially in violation of federal requirements. And just to note also, this would include fish and a whole network of reporting. I mean, they're not endangered, but I saw a lot of turkeys this morning on the way over here, and we have the turkey count every year. So in that terms of verify, let's say they come up with rules about, well, this is the way we've traditionally gathered sighting. You can't have a wildlife biologist out waiting by every trail or, landscape, wildlife corridor, or seeing which of the turtles or the newts emerge from the from the tidal pools. But would that word verify enable someone to then bring suit against the state because they don't think that because verification opens up for interpretation through rules, that somebody who doesn't like the way it was verified would then have standing for a lawsuit?
I don't see that happening. Whenever we spoke with DES, Fish and Game, New Hampshire Timber Owners Association, and Farm Bureau, we didn't see anything that would raise those flags or cause concern for a lawsuit for verification.
Follow up?
That's it for now, but thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. On the last bill, we had a big discussion about how Fish and Game has a lot of authority to set its policies. And we had discussion about what it means when we give an agency the ability to write rules without really putting parameters on there. Would you agree with me that these two rulemaking provisions give away broad rulemaking authority on policy from the legislature to an independently controlled commission?
I don't know that I would agree. Thank you for the question, by the way. I don't think that I would agree that it takes away the power at any point in time. As you said in the last conversation we had, the chair mentioned that we can always pull this back in if something is not correct and fix it.
Follow up?
Yes, please, thank you. Both filing bills and rulemaking are very expensive and time-consuming processes. So doesn't it make sense to try to not think, oh, I can always fix it with another statute?
Thank you for the question. The way it's written, we are asking the executive director to adopt rules pursuant to RSA 54A, and so I think it's outlined and it does have parameters and boundaries, and I don't foresee it needing to come back.
Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone here? Did they want to comment on this particular bill? Seeing how, come on.
I'd like to ask a question if I could.
Yeah, I'd like him to.
We have some interest, if you don't mind. I know you didn't sign up, and so we're compelling you. This is kind of like a subpoena. This is a sub- And we apologize in advance for the discomfort.
Thank you for recognizing that. And again, for the record, Melissa Nemeth, Legal and Legislative Liaison for the Fish and Game Department. Part of there's an interesting dynamic a bit here that I think this committee probably understands, and that there's a Fish and Game Commission in addition to the Fish and Game Department. And there is, as Representative DeVito indicated at the last commission meeting, there was a vote of the commission to approve the amendment 9-1. There are still some ongoing discussions that are taking place. And so we're sort of in a weird place. The department does have some concerns to Senator Rosenwald's point with respect to the cost of rulemaking. Not only the rulemaking itself, but while there is not, that's not a direct cost that you can assign. What is being asked here in the rulemaking we were being asked to undertake would create a lot of administrative work on the technology front, which would have a significant cost as well as ongoing. So that's one of the concerns. It would also require, there would be the need to contact landowners to get this permission, which of course would add a lot of administrative time and work for folks. So in the database that we have now, it doesn't track landowner permission, so that would be something that would need to be done going forward. So there's a lot of fiscal impacts that could come along with this. Clearly the department wants to protect property owners' rights and doesn't have a concern with that policy provision of the bill, but does have some concerns when it comes to the financial aspect, as we are a self-funded agency, as the committee is well aware.
Senator Pearl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming up. Can you just walk me through the process a little bit about how this works now? If you have, someone that has a concern that's raised about an issue on a property, could you just walk us through that?
I actually would have to get back to you. I don't have the answer to that. And I don't know if it has come up. So you're saying if today, you said, you had a concern about how the department, if there was a restriction on your property and how the department came into that information, how someone would resolve that concern? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I think I want to back up even a little bit more. If someone raises a concern that you need to go out and evaluate a property, just walk me through the process a little bit about how that would start.
I would actually need to get back to you. I am not the biologist, and they're not here today, so I could certainly take that question back and get information back to the committee on that.
All right, if we're gonna do that, I guess what I specifically want to know is, do they ask landowner permission currently? Do they, or do they just, do they go on? Is there a difference between posted and non-posted property as far as, asking for permission? Just curious. I mean, I see this bill is trying to strike the balance between the department having the information they need to do the work they need and also protecting the property rights of the landowner. So I guess I'm kind of curious how that works.
Okay, yes, I can certainly get back to you on that, Senator.
Thank you.
Any other homework you wanted to do? Senator Waters?
Thank you. The original bill had $1 million fiscal note expenditures from the Fish and Game Fund. And it's changed, but that provision on the notification is still there. Is it possible to give us some fuller sense, or, now or later, of how much of that million you think you still would need?
Sure, I can certainly get back to you with that information as well.
Hey, you got 3 people on finance in this room, so that.
Yeah, it's $1 million from the Fish and Game Fund, which we don't have. Yeah.
Senator Waters, one more.
Yeah, I understand the situation. The commission sets policy, and I respect that. I just wondered about whether you had any comments from the wildlife biologists about this bill.
Not today. I think they're not here, and I don't want to speak for
Oh,
other
understood,
people.
But it would be helpful. I mean, again, the commission sets what is the official position here, but
Correct.
it'd be helpful for us to know what the wildlife biologists think about the verification question in the first part of it. So, thank you very much.
All right, so I want everybody to know, because we have a lot of speakers and we have pending information that's going to be coming out. There will be a point where we're going to recess this until next week, but I wanted to give everybody the opportunity to voice their opinion today. It will be recessed and followed up with the following week as well, so that more information that was requested from the committee will be available and we'll be able to digest that. So again, if you can limit your comments to speaking from your heart. If you have written testimony, I'm going to strongly encourage you to push it in and be fair to the rest of the people, knowing that we're going to recess and we'll be back next week as well. So if there's further information for you, and thank you very much for coming on. So with that, I just want everybody to know, if you wanted to save your testimony to the following week, that's fine too. So with that, I'm looking at you, and nope, you. And did you sign up to speak? You did not, did you? What is your name?
My name's Val.
Come on up. That's got to be uncomfortable. Yeah, both of you? Okay. You want to do it? Duet? All right, here we go. And it's, what is it again?
For Dallas, that's not
Dallas, okay. And
Sorry about that.
are you speaking with her as well? Because you seem to be wearing the same shirt. And your name is?
My name is Drew Stevens, also of Nottingham.
Drew Stevens. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, committee.
Great.
Thank you for
Yes.
letting us speak.
Thank you so much.
We'll put the mic in between
Yeah,
you both. And
So Dallas and I here, we're licensed wildlife rehabilitators here in New Hampshire. We are the only permitted rehabilitators who care for threatened and endangered turtles. We run New Hampshire Turtle Rescue. It's a nonprofit public charity that serves all of New Hampshire. Just last year, we took in over 400 wild turtles. Over 20% of those 400 turtles were from the threatened and endangered species list in New Hampshire. So what we're talking about here today is essentially a process that's going to upend the way that we conserve and know about where these threatened and endangered species are, right? There's big concern about It seems two things, that Fish and Game imposes land use restrictions on private landowners. Fish and Game doesn't have the authority to impose land use restrictions on private landowners. They make recommendations that are non-binding to help landowners prevent harm to threatened and endangered species on their property, right? We have threatened and endangered species are a public resource, and there are statutes that require the state to protect those public resources. That also goes for observations of threatened and endangered species. If the threatened and endangered species themselves are a public resource, then so are the observations of them. Without observations of threatened and endangered species, we have no way to know where they're at to properly conserve them. And the database that exists that all of the ecological review goes through is filled with, you know, a various amount of records, all of which have been verified by biologists from Fish and Game, the Department of Natural, the ones who maintain the database as well. So they have been verified by actual biologists. They're not just people sending in pictures of scat and saying this is a Canada lynx and it going into the database. These are photographically evidenced, you know, there is strong evidence verified by biologists, not just people going off willy-nilly, you know, making observations on their neighbor's property. So, you know, the basis is that there's this argument that, you know, if there's an animal on somebody's property, that nobody should ever be able to report it. But those observations aren't the private landowner's property, right? Just because that animal exists on private property, it's a public resource, that doesn't make it private property. That doesn't make it a property of that landowner. And so we don't think that observation should also be restricted just to the landowner's permission, right? If you, you know, make the bar so high that you need anybody's land, you know, permission in order to enter an observation, that's going to really devastate the flow of scientific data that helps us conserve these species. These turtles that we deal with are at risk and they're declining. They're not getting better. This is only going to remove some of these protections. And the bill's a little insidious with its wording because it seems like it's a straightforward bill. The actual effects, right? The Fish and Game Commission supported it. But I can tell you that if you ask the biologists, I bet they're not going to support it because this is going to be very destructive to the things that we care about.
And you saw the amendment.
I did. And the amendment wording, like I said, it's a little bit insidious in that it's ensuring that landowner permission is required. Does that mean now that if I see a Blanding turtle crossing a public highway, I have to get DOT's permission to you know, enter that observation? Does Fish and Game have to?
It's also a question of if does a landowner just have the rights at any point to just revoke any type of data, you know, leading to these huge gaps throughout the state where we just don't have any cohesive understanding where these species exist to manage them in any real way.
And, you know, another concern, you know, the Timberland Owners Association, Farm Bureau, they've supported the bill, but, you know, I think a big thing that they're missing is that some of the grants that their members and that the, you know, Fish and Game Commission's constituents avail themselves of depend on this data that they're trying to undermine. You know, a lot of these grants like forestry management grants, conservation stewardship plans, wetland easements, and even the Fish and Game small grants program that lots of hunters and landowners take advantage of, those rely on records of threatened and endangered species in order to prioritize who gets those grants, right? If your land is more, you know, has more value because it's better habitat, you're more likely to get a grant to, you know, properly manage that land. And so by taking away this data, you're also making those people less eligible to be able to get these grants. So there are some effects here that I don't think are really being considered that are going to have really, really strong ramifications.
And we won't be able to essentially do any conservation planning in that way as well. Yeah, there's a lot of impacts to say. It's hard to make them all concise.
So we would recommend you know, if you can, get the opinion of Fish and Game itself, not the commission. They're the ones who actually go through this process. I'm the vice chair of the Nottingham Planning Board. I've seen ecological review come through big alteration of terrain, you know, permitting projects. And I see just, you know, the recommendations that are made on those, they're very, you know, they're changing pumps so that they won't, you know, take in animals and grind them up when, you know, they're doing stormwater management. It's placing things in certain areas that are slightly less sensitive. They're never things like you can't build here or no, you can't build this project. That's a big misconception. It's always just reasonable recommendations.
We have a question from the committee and you'll set the alarm. All right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for coming in, and thank you for what you do. Nottingham's a great town.
It is.
So, you heard my questions of Fish and Game. I guess You mentioned you saw a turtle crossing the road, would you have to ask permission? Can you walk me through a little bit of the process as you see it from your perspective? I mean, conservation practices are important. We all understand that and recognize that. So are landowner rights, and so we have to strike that balance. I think that's what we're trying to do here. Can you just walk me through that process a little bit from your perspective?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, yeah, for example, if I'm a landowner and I'm out enjoying my land and I glance over and I see a Canada lynx walking through my neighbor's property, or, for me, I see a Blanding's turtle, something I really care about. Why shouldn't I be able to report what I see of a public resource, in an area, if that's the only observation that's ever made of that animal in that area? And then, there's a development that wants to happen, or some type of, land use changing that's going on. It's important to understand the habitat there and what can be done to mitigate harm, right? It's never about stopping development. That doesn't happen. It's about mitigating the harm. So for me, if I see something that I care about, an animal, a public resource, I feel like I have an obligation and duty to report it, but I think I have the right as well to both enjoy wildlife as a public resource and have it continue to exist in my property and my neighbor's property, because, animals don't understand property lines and they move freely between them.
So it's important to have everyone involved, I would assume.
Of course, yeah.
And so I guess when you see that sighting, what is involved with gathering the data that's necessary? If you feel the need to go over onto your neighbor's property to do that, would you go ask permission?
If it were me I would not go onto my neighbor's property. I would, if a sighting or, going to look for, if I was going looking for turtle nests or something, yeah, of course I'd go ask my, and if I was going to report it, then yes, I'd say, hey, I'm looking to go report this. But I think there's a misunderstanding that people are roaming around private property with like clipboards looking for, threatened and endangered species that then put land use restrictions so that it'll never be developed again. But these are incidental, reports that are happening that for people seeing it on their neighbor's yard, in their own yard, on the streets, on the side of the street. If you're driving down and you see a turtle walking away and it, walks into somebody's private property, are you not able to take a photo of that, turtle that just crossed the road, just because it's in that private property now?
And when it comes to the actual surveys themselves too, Fish and Game does have that approval. It still would majorly impact all the existing data because it's not like that's being attached to that, it might be from verbal means or something else, but they are getting approval for any kind of actual surveys, which is a ton of what the data is in there. And so there's also the aspect of the public reporting. And so like for reptiles and amphibians, they ask you to report at least the photo because, for instance, in the case of turtles, people aren't necessarily going to understand the difference of one or the other. They need the biologist to look at that turtle and say, this is one of our endangered species. And so they're giving specific information of what location that animal exists in, as well as a photo evidence. And there's some other fields on there that I'm actually forgetting, but.
One more follow-up. So I guess my basic question, would you agree that it's probably in the best interest of the whole process if we have the cooperation of the landowners that are involved, understanding it can be many, as you said, these animals don't understand property boundaries, and I respect that. I own some land myself, and I see the movement of the animals through them. But I guess the question is, would you feel it's it's in the best interest of the process to have all of the landowners and all of the parties involved cooperating and understanding what's happening as this data and the surveys are going on and being acquired? Would you agree that's probably the best?
I believe that we need cooperation with landowners. I know for us personally, we're releasing turtles all over the state, and we do the best we can to go out to individuals, explain. I mean, every single interaction I've had pretty much has been all positive. Everybody's very excited. They never get to see these turtles. They're like, oh my gosh, this was right in my backyard. So it's amazing having that cooperation, but it's the burden of having to prove that. And like where, what if you're on a public trail? Like what are you going to, does that land on the person to get that permission? Does that land on the state? Because that's a huge administrative burden in the state. And I will say it's already almost impossible to get people to report these sightings. We ran full campaigns for just saying in the, we're going to have a contest, whoever wins the most, but you have to report it to Fish and Game. Nobody told me that, just having that burden is enough, let alone if you're now saying, oh, sorry, you can't report it until you go talk to that landowner. How do you even find that out half the time? Most people won't understand that. So it's, I think the impact of being able to, or the impact of having individual landowners, sometimes with financial incentive, to decide whether or not a species is reported and therefore understood to exist in an area is, I think, just very flawed in any kind of way. But I think, yes, in any case, you should be trying to track down that permission and engage that landowner because most of the time they love that.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So we're gonna move it along. We've got one more question, and then we'll get to our next folks. Senator Waters?
Thank you. I appreciate what you've noted about wildlife being part of the public trust, because that is constitutional. And we certainly do regulate hunting and fishing and so on private property. But under this provision, wouldn't it be fair to say that, let's say somebody's on a snowmobile trail or out fishing and they have, that's certainly allowed on private property, or there's an agreement that the snowmobile trail can go through where it goes through, and they happen to see one of these species that before they could let Fish and Game know, they'd have to, and, they'd have to separately find out who the landowner is, contact them before they call Fish and Game and say, I saw such and such out on the snowmobile trail. Is that the kind of what this would create?
Yeah, thank you, Senator, for the question. Yeah, I do believe that's by, the wording says ensuring that landowner permission is acquired before any site-specific location data is, ensuring is pretty strong, right? You have to have that. And so the other worry is that retroactive, right? Does that mean all the records in the database that exists now will need to have, landowner permission too? Because that would be a huge concern as well. But even going forward, ensuring landowner permission just broadly, landowner, and ensuring that's so wide that, does that include municipalities? Does that include the state? Does that include, how broad is that and how onerous is that process going to be when it's already a, difficult process to report?
Okay, we're gonna have to move this along. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you so much.
Let's see, Karsten Spear? Did I say that right?
Yep. I really respect the time. I'm going to respect the request to be placed at the end because if others have already spoken to my thoughts, I may not testify. That's up to the chair.
Yeah, because we're gonna end up recessing, so if you don't want to speak, then I'm probably not gonna call you again.
All right, I'll sit down now.
All right. You know that next week will be,
Yes,
yeah,
I noted that. Yep.
in the respect of your time as well.
A lot of stuff here. If you'll give me a moment before you start the timer, just to organize myself a little bit. I am going to do my best to amend what I had written because some things have been spoken to or have raised some questions that I hadn't considered. And in particular, Senator Rosenwald, I was struck by some things that I had not considered before relative to the constitutionality of what's occurring currently and what we're proposing, which I'm speaking in favor of 1603. House Bill 1603 strengthens efforts to protect species and habitats by establishing data integrity. Proper scientific management of our resources, which obviously must be based on accurate data, should be the primary goal of New Hampshire Fish and Game. If we fail in this, the federal government could take action against us. If the data is not accurate, we could mismanage things inadvertently and may well be doing already. It is very noteworthy, as we've said before, the Fish and Game Commission reversed. The commission sets policy for the executive director and all the employees under her. The Fish and Game Commission took the time to review the many facets of the situation. They reconsidered initial opposition and became supporters. Fish and Game works closely with DES. And it's very noteworthy that New Hampshire DES dealt with this issue over 15 years ago by establishing procedures requiring written landowner permission before entering private property. This is a long-standing situation for DES. This is not a financial burden on Fish and Game the way it has been presented to be. I would submit to you that it is from all kinds of respect purposes, constitutionality, the burden being placed on landowners if things are not done properly is very, very high. Even so, New Hampshire DES has recognized the search of private property without permission is fundamentally wrong, no matter how pure the goal is. Even our police are not allowed to enter private property without, at a minimum, owner's permission. I'm not going to get into too deeply. I'll abbreviate this. It's basically a problem that is creating no trespassing signs going up across the state, which is something we do not want. It's been noted, Fish and Game website has the following quote at the top of the reporting form, quote, observers are strongly encouraged to obtain landowner permission before going onto private property. Strongly encouraged at the top of an agency data reporting form. Is that how you treat your neighbor when you enter their land? Who allows you on their land? We want to protect our resources. However, if data lacks integrity, whether for reasons of age, poor collection methods, or many other reasons, it has serious repercussions when Fish and Game uses it in their attempt to protect. To speak to a previous point, and I'm happy to take questions at the end about some of these specifics. For anyone who thinks that Fish and Game does not have the power to cause very serious loss of value and serious loss of property use, you are unfortunately mistaken. There are many examples across New Hampshire where Fish and Game Department requests of extreme and permanent deed restrictions, mitigation payments, and easements is a requirement from an agency as a condition, for example, of having a permit issued. So Fish and Game doesn't have the direct authority, but they're being empowered by other agencies. And I can give you specific examples of this if need be, but I'd rather save the time. We can talk another time if we need to. I am aware, for example, relative to accuracy or inaccuracy, I am aware of 3 data checks over 10 years for permitting requirements that yielded 3 different results, including one of those 3 with 0 results.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there.
Thank you.
And you've got that written?
I will rewrite and submit to you because I did alter it a bit. I tried to take out some sections for your time. I'd be very happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Senator Waters, Senator Rosenwald.
I'm so good at this now, you're confusing me with that.
You got a tag team going on here. You're-
I do have 2 questions.
Sure.
Yes.
You'll
Yep.
allow me. When I think about integrity of data and quality of research, I tend to think of medical research.
I can't quite hear
I
you.
tend to think of medical research,
Scientific, yes.
in which very small studies are not as high quality as studies that involve thousands of people. To the extent that this bill looks like it surely would create less data, wouldn't that degrade the quality of the data we had? This is my first question.
That's multifaceted in terms of the aspects of concern it brings up. I'll do my best to answer. Number one, statistically, if properly done scientifically, small data sets can be very indicative. I am very considerate and supportive of the gentleman who from Nottingham who spoke before. So if we have sightings crossing a public road, for example, that's not what this bill addresses. A public, state-owned snowmobile trail, that's not what this addresses. As far back as 40 or 50 years ago, we had things called bioblitzes and other things. This data set that Fish and Game currently has is an amalgamation of many, many different programs in the past.
In the interest of time, I'm going to ask you to.
I'm trying to answer the all right, so I do not see, and I think DES has certainly been doing a masterful job in the last number of years relative to this. I do not believe that it should create less data. I would certainly look at it as a situation of the quality of data, even if it is less, is reliable. If the data is broad but not accurate, that's a terrible thing trying to manage a species. And I am concerned that the federal government could look badly at that.
Thank you. On line 18 of the bill as amended by the House, it says that for the purpose of this statute, we can't appreciably jeopardize the continued existence
Right.
of subspecies, but it delegates that authority to rulemaking.
Yeah, that's
What
a
does
concern.
appreciably jeopardize mean to you, and how do you think Fish and Game would define that in rules?
I don't know how they would define it in rules, quite honestly. And I'm right on target with you.
Thank you, that's what I was looking for.
So, however, may I completely answer the question?
If you can do it in a minute.
I will do my best. Hold on the timer for a second. Let me collect my thoughts. I'm not used to doing this the way you folks are.
We have a lot of people that I got to get through here.
I understand.
So I'm gonna be, if you can be succinct.
This bill, so I'll try to answer this. This bill creates an opportunity for Fish and Game to get together with landowners cooperatively in a manner that DES and others already have. Fundamentally, it is not right or fair to have data collected without owners' knowledge. And that is occurring and has occurred in the past. And landowners are usually far more knowledgeable about their land and could, if given the opportunity, verify, yeah, that's there or there, that's not. I mean, I'm a conservationist from the 1970s. I push back on this idea that landowners are always mercenary people who are going to steamroll wildlife. It's not the case. However, the current situation is creating no trespassing, it's creating mistrust. It is a very deep-set problem, and we need to stop it. We want to support Fish and Game.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Nope, that's
Okay.
it. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Linda, Diane, you didn't say you wanted to speak or not, so I'm gonna assume you didn't want to speak. Joanne Bryan, New Hampshire, Joan Bryan, O'Brien. Same thing. You didn't mark that you wanted to speak. So the next is going to be Leslie McGregor.
Hello,
Welcome.
thank you. I'm a longtime wildlife biologist, a veterinarian, and a lawyer. I speak on behalf of the data set that is being in question here. In many species, endangered species, especially of turtles, you have an animal that lives for 40 to 80 years, but during that amount of time, you may see it once or twice. It's a secretive animal, and that's why a data set that goes back many years is a very precious resource for Fish and Wildlife to make an assessment of whether a species is on a property. Having to negate a huge data set because landowner permission is not documented within that data set, and where the data set has been collected properly with photographs and has been judged to be correct by Fish and Wildlife, starting over again is a real hazard to completely missing out on opportunities to protect these endangered species.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions from the committee? Carol Floss? Is that That's fine if you don't want to speak today. Thank you. Judy Lindsay? Welcome.
Thank you. I don't want this to be too close.
No, you're fine.
Great. Whoops. I might want to grab my glasses.
And your time is up.
Break in between.
Fun getting old, isn't it?
Yeah, just recently the glasses came. Okay. Thank you, Chair and Senators, for this opportunity to share my opinion. My name is Judy Lindsay. I live in Candia. I serve on my town planning board and my conservation commission, but I'm speaking for myself today. I encourage you to oppose HB 1603, which would weaken protections for our state's most vulnerable species, the threatened and endangered. One endangered species of great concern is the Blanding's turtle. Have you ever seen one of these awesome creatures? I have been fortunate enough to have them on my wooded property and even nesting. I have also seen them tragically smashed on our roads in Candia. A turtle is not simply a turtle, an animal that can be removed without serious consequences to our environment. Did you know turtles actually promote a healthy environment by eating harmful bacteria and cleaning up our ponds and wetlands? Each species plays a critical role in the environment. We would be wise not to wipe them out. Turtles do not reproduce in a short time like squirrels or deer, which grow up quickly, reproduce, and die after a normal lifespan of 2 to 10 years. Turtles may take 14 to 17 years before reaching maturity, and it's estimated that only about 5% of the eggs laid ever hatch, make it to the water, and survive to adulthood. When you consider the addition of the destruction of their natural habitat, you can see that the deck is already stacked against them. When I was a teacher in Candia doing lunch duty on our playground, some of the students discovered a huge Blanding's turtle on the upper field. What a delight and a rare occurrence. As they gently held their precious discovery, I shared information about this endangered animal with them. Since that time, 43 houses have gone in just beyond the edge of this field. You can imagine the impact that that's had on the turtle's environment. Developers digging up the forest ground, then adding cement foundations, road pavement, septic systems, underground utilities, people, cats, dogs, and pesticides. We must safeguard the protections already in place. They must not be weakened, especially if the purpose is to benefit wealthy landowners and developers. We must look at the big picture. Yes, people need places to live, and yes, the animals also need places to live. We must achieve a healthy balance that honors the rights of all living creatures, and thus ensure a healthy planet for all of us. Again, please oppose HB 1603, and thank you for listening to my opinion.
Thank you for your testimony, and I could have guessed you were a teacher.
Yep, I was.
And I can remember a teacher in 4th grade, Mrs. Hood, who read The Hobbit to us, and when I saw the movie, I couldn't have imagined it any better than the way she read it.
Oh,
And that's a compliment to you. So with that, other questions from the committee? Thank you very much.
thank you.
I have a nice scribbly in blue, and you're the only one who wrote in blue. I have no idea what that is.
Hello, my name is Kevin McCurley, and obviously there's a lot to talk about. But if we just break this down, this bill is pretty much would remove the very minimal level of conservation that many of these species in New Hampshire are appreciating. And to be dead honest, in New Hampshire, we are losing our wildlife. We're losing at an alarming rate. I'm a wildlife expert. I deal with timber rattlesnakes, alligators, all sorts of endangered, threatened turtles and reptile species. I'm actually a consultant in the largest animal rescue in the world over in India, but my backyard is New Hampshire. And I can tell you, we have a big, huge misnomer right here. We think that there are magical fairies going down onto properties and doing environmental audits. And then they're saying that there's blue spotted salamanders here. There's Blanding's turtles here. These are generally done by citizen scientists, people that just are interested in what they do in New Hampshire. Let's say for the reptiles, they'll fill out something called the RERP, Rare Endangered Reptile Report or whatever. And they will then verify with a picture, location, often a GPS, and they'll say, hey, I saw this spotted salamander. I saw this spotted turtle. And they will put that into the database. If they have the understanding and the knowledge, and this is a very, very small percentage of the people that are seeing these animals, they actually go to the state, they fill it out, and then it gets verified by a biologist. So now it sits in a database. So then somebody has their property, and I have 27 acres, and I want to go put a housing development there, and I want to sell it. Well, I don't want to know that there's anything endangered, there's anything threatened there. So first thing is, I don't want anybody to validate anything. But if there happened to be somebody 17 years ago that saw a Blanding's turtle nesting there and that they put that report to Fish and Game. Fish and Game now has a record. Fish and Game doesn't just creep around on people's properties. If they have a development that's being proposed in a town and saying, we want to develop this 26 acres into a housing development, and then we noticed, Fish and Game has a record of Blanding's turtles there. And they can ask Fish and Game for an opinion, a very weak worded opinion. Often nothing comes of it because I've been watching all these developments. I come in after I'm involved in the mitigation and I'm watching these animals. They're vanishing. They're going. Where are the toads? Where are the bats? New Hampshire is losing our resources. Within 20 years, the rate of loss is so incredible. And if we fast track to another 20 years, we're not doing a good job. And listening to people who propose this, they are not, their knowledge of wildlife and their knowledge of what conservation really is a huge misnomer. They are very poorly educated on actually what happens. But hugely in New Hampshire, we have developments that are occurring where there are no reports of any animals. That's not because they're not there. It's because nobody was ever given the opportunity. Fish and Game don't go looking. They don't just run around looking to find Blanding turtles without somebody pointing that in direction. They are going there for a reason. They're authenticating that environment. But these animals are, it is so alarming. I work a lot in Massachusetts, and what's going on is incredible. But to sit here and listen to people that talk about landowner rights and act like Fish and Game has some lengthy power and that they can invade properties without landowners' uses, Fish and Game asks for, they ask for permission. They don't want to be caught creeping around people's properties. But the biologists are completely destroyed. They're devalued because they can't do really anything because they're public servants. And when it comes down to property rights over conservation, it seems like the easy thing is just say, get off my property. I'm going to do whatever I want with my property. And I was reading in the thing saying that we're going to.
I'm going to have to be fair to other people.
Okay.
And I appreciate, unless there's a question from the committee. Thank you very much. I just got to be respectful for the other individuals. Thank you, Kevin. Something Riley.
Stuart Riley.
Stuart, okay.
I'm a volunteer with New Hampshire Turtle Rescue, among other wildlife agencies in the state. I'll submit my written testimony in full, if I may.
Yep.
And just speak to some of the issues raised so far today. So, I am a frequent reporter of wildlife sightings, and the majority of sightings are from the curtilage of properties, which is kind of the same rules that law enforcement would typically respect. If I can see something from either a public space or the curtilage of a property, I am within my rights to take a photo of it. It's not like we're hiking into people's property looking for these animals. I do believe that the bill as written incentivizes dishonesty. And that's not to villainize any individuals. That is just to look at a historical pattern where we are currently in a state where we have one of the most aggressive housing markets in the country. Property owners and landowners have a huge incentive to minimize the impact of wildlife. And with threatened species, they are our canary in a coal mine. We are only as healthy as the ecosystems around us. The more we continue to build and push into wetlands and push into forested lands, the more we are affecting our future health. Not only as wildlife, but as humans, right? We are, at the end of the day, animals. We are part of the ecosystems around us, and it is important to encourage people to be stewards. I think this bill disincentivizes that process. I think it disincentivizes citizen scientists from getting involved because they're going to see, well, now I have to go through all of these extra steps. I'm already somebody who encourages public reporting, and a lot of people see that form and they're intimidated and they don't want to fill it out. So how much worse is that data set going to be in the future if people are further disincentivized? I just fear the long-term impacts. So we're in historic droughts right now. Part of that is because of urban sprawl and because we've lost so much of our wetlands and so much of our forests. I believe the pace at which that is increasing, it's going to get worse. I think these conservation initiatives that we have in place now, those are what are mitigating the impact. And I think removing and I'm trying to look for the word. We're weakening the infrastructure that we have now to keep conservation goals in place. And I think weakening that any further is just a huge disservice, not only to wildlife, but to us, to all of us. It's going to make New Hampshire less healthy overall. It's going to destroy our biodiversity. And realistically, we're already looking at wildfires. Those things are only going to get worse. That's all.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Karen Campbell. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I read my testimony at home and it was 6 minutes long, so.
Oh, no, that's a disaster.
I'm nervous, but I'll try to speak from the heart.
You can turn it into us.
I did.
Okay.
I actually turned it in online, so you can get the full thing. I'm a veterinarian, and I volunteer with New Hampshire Turtle Rescue and with New Hampshire Audubon and Sierra Club.
Can you pull your microphone just a little closer to you? Just like it. Beautiful.
So.
Oh, wow. There it is.
Okay. I'm definitely an advocate for wildlife and very interested in wildlife. And so the first thing that comes to mind when I see this bill is anything that could jeopardize our ability to protect wildlife is very concerning to me. But I also have to admit, I'm really shocked actually at the implications that this bill could have for the data that we already have. To become a veterinarian, you have to be a scientist, and scientists believe in gathering a lot of data and making informed decisions based on that. And it would just be such a shame to have the data that's in the database now be invalidated because it doesn't meet with the requirements that this bill requires now. It's a shame to lose all of that data, and it's actually really heartbreaking to know how much time and energy and hours of biologists' work was spent gathering this data and how much money it costs to gather all of that, and that all of those funds would just be wasted. It's fiscally irresponsible. And as a state, we still have a responsibility to meet the requirements for endangered species. So it's not like we'd be able to just sit with what we have. Money would have to be spent to go out and gather that data all over again. And it's just a shame to do that when it's already been done. So I don't want to see anything that puts endangered species at more risk than they are now. You know, we do have a crisis in our state and on our planet with the amount of species that are at risk of becoming extinct. But I also don't want to see all that data wasted, and I don't want to see all those finances wasted either.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from Senator Waters?
Yeah, thank you. So on the data issue, I guess that I don't see it, but I'll check that this would invalidate the previous data. But the question might be that wouldn't it disrupt the data set if you couldn't have the same continuity of collection of new data? And if the verification process might be called into question about the previous data?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much for your testimony and keeping it under 3 minutes. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Plus, you got a testimony to roll. Fantastic. Rick Vanderpool?
We can narrow.
We still got a few more. Yeah.
Thank you,
gonna
Mr.
have to-
Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we're just on a time crunch, so go ahead, not meaning to interrupt.
Thank you for your time. My name is Rick Vanderpool, Sandwich, New Hampshire. I'm a wildlife biologist, have been for the last 50 years in this state. A lot of my work is to, in fact, identify rare and endangered species under permitting conditions for federal government, state government. I've worked for Fish and Game doing a variety of surveys and provided a lot of that data that other people who have testified today have indicated that that data may not be able to be validated because of its age. My testimony has several points to it. I won't try and repeat anything that's been said. I think one of the biggest concerns I've had doing this work for as long as I have is watching the gradual erosion of the rights of the wildlife versus the rights of the landowners. In 1983, we made it a misdemeanor. That was a maximum penalty for violating the Endangered Species Act. In 2009, we made sure that normal agriculture and silviculture was allowable and would not be affected by this act. So again, I don't see an issue there with much of the land uses that are already taking place, because that basically agriculture and forestry gets a buy. Okay. In 2011, we gave pretty much all the power to the executive director of Fish and Game for ascertaining the rules, making sure that things are, in order, but more importantly, to identify critical habitat, since either you've got a presence or absence of a species, or you've got their habitat. Well, we don't have any critical habitat as identified as yet by the executive director. It's not uncommon. The same thing goes with the Federal Endangered Species Act. There's no critical habitat that's been identified for the 5 listed species in our state. But that said, it further restricts the ability of the staff to actually come up with data that they can implement under the charge of the Endangered Species Act to better manage those wildlife species. And then, of course, as you all know, in 2000, we had a Supreme Court case that not only demonstrated the disjunct between the use of that term, right, not appreciably jeopardized the continued existence of, but how Fish and Game was responding to that and implementing that on the ground. Rules were developed. We moved from natural heritage over to DES for the data checks, with Fish and Game intervening and providing support. So at the end of the day, I don't see where this bill is needed. We've got landowner permission, like a previous gentleman said, that Fish and Game always gets when they check up on existing records. And very often they use people like myself to help validate that. The validation, previous editions of this 1603, talking about photographs, almost an impossibility for some of the species that are listed, right? That being said, the validation is always carried through by Fish and Game. My greatest concern with that is the fact that we are asking them now to go out of their way, spend more money, which they don't have, staff resources. You and I have been there, Senator Avard, about looking at how much staff resources are limited in Fish and Game. I don't want to put anything out there that further restricts their ability to do their job.
Thank you for your testimony and for the outline. Very succinct. Appreciate it. And Senator Rosenwald, can we make it quick? Because
I can make it quick.
I'm gonna have to close the hearing shortly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, the first part of this bill is current law that talks about other state agencies
Mm-hmm.
and says they can hire their own wildlife biologists. What seems to be controversial is the rulemaking portion
Yes.
for Fish and Game. I don't see that that would apply, for example, to environmental services. Fish and Game can set rules for itself,
That's correct.
but how would it, like if DES hired you, those Fish and Game rules, would they apply if you were working for DES?
Yes, I mean, because theoretically, I would be working on information that would be provided to DES, but in conjunction with Fish and Game to implement some type of mitigation plan for a particular action. So in other words, it's already happening. I don't see where this would improve that situation that's already in place. And we went through this 6 years ago to try and make sure those rules were good, and I think we did a good job.
I think I was here then, wasn't I? I think I was.
You were here.
I'm sure I was. Thank you very much. Any further questions?
Okay.
Seeing none.
Thank you.
We have 4 more speakers, but I'm going to limit it to Ashley, and then I'm going to ask Robert Lee and Maurice, Mr. Springer, or Mary Ann Springer, and Jason, if you can save your testimony for next week. Because more information is going to be coming out. And I can't. I've got, Ashley is going to be my last speaker. Ashley? And your process is what? What? Yeah, I mentioned it in the beginning of the, yeah.
So, would it be continued again next week and then it could be continued the following week?
No, just next week. Yeah. And I apologize for you taking out the time. I just have 2 more bills that I got to do and trying to be fair to everybody, but I didn't know you were here, so, yeah.
People that might speak, I don't think you have them all.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And Ashley, you are up.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Ashley Porter, formerly Ashley Bray. I'm a private landowner in New Hampshire. I'm speaking in opposition to this bill. I am also a wildlife biologist that's been working in the state since 2019. I have a master's degree in wildlife forensic science and conservation, and I'm a former technician for Fish and Game's New England Cottontail Project, one of their few endangered species. So I've actually been the person that goes out looking to verify presence or absence of one of our endangered species. I've also been the person that goes to someone's house and gets rejected because they're a private landowner that does not want us on their property. So that's already the process that's in place. Heidi Holman, who is the head of that project, reaches out ahead of time and figures out whether or not we're allowed to go on the property to survey. So I'm not sure what this bill is trying to address because that's not necessarily a problem that exists. I also am keenly aware of how hard it is to collect good data, and to Senator Rosenwald's point, if we're looking at presence or absence, the limitation of where we're allowed to look would limit our data set for sure, especially if there's existing data already there for certain areas that we can't go to anymore. That would limit our data set and invalidate the data that is already there. So really this bill would just be invalidating more data that already exists, and I'll cut down some of my points. Let's see here. I'm also, just as a citizen of New Hampshire, I'm currently pregnant with my first child. I'm choosing to raise him here to be closer to nature because I like being here to be closer to nature. It is the state's responsibility as the trustees of wildlife, because they are a public resource not owned by private landowners, to ensure that my children and my children's children will still have access to a diversity of wildlife. And we wildlife biologists and conservationists who are here today, who are opposing this bill, have dedicated our careers and lives to this field. We have the education and the expertise to advise on matters relating to our state's wildlife and ecosystems. We are telling you that this bill is trying to solve a problem that does not exist and would be catastrophic to what already little protection our state offers threatened and endangered wildlife. When we speak our opinions, please believe us. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and congratulations. And so I have one question and then we're going to recess.
Yeah.
Because I'm the chair and I can do that. How many times have you been rejected?
In my one season of surveying, twice, where we went to the person's house where we previously had permission, and then that day they decided they didn't want us there, so we went home and did not trespass on their land.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And we appreciate that. And so with that, we're going to recess the hearing to following next week.
I'll see if I can find Michael.
Yes. So Joshua, it'll be 9 a.m. next week. Yes.
It's coming.
And Joshua, those that come, those that have already spoken, they've already spoken. So we're not going to, I do not want repeat speakers. And we'll only take testimony from those that have already spoken. Well, we had Jason Stock, Johnson, if I get time, I want to take this one right away, just to get this out of our hair, because I got a feeling you don't have any concerns with this one, do you? Yeah. Get her done. Representative O's, Mr. Chairman, we're going to open up the hearing to 1539 FN and hear from the chairman of Energy. What do we call it in the House? You're the chair of Energy and Natural. What are you the chair of?
Science, Technology, and Energy.
And Energy. Yes. That. Welcome. That. You're recognized, Representative.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman and honorable members of the Senate. For the record, I'm Representative Michael Vose. I represent the town of Epping, which is Rockingham District 5. And as I mentioned a moment ago, I'm Chair of Science, Technology, and Energy. I'm here this morning to introduce to you House Bill 1539 FN, authorizing electric utilities to issue AAA-rated bonds for the purpose of storm cost recovery and infrastructure resilience. When I first began my legislative career a little less than 12 years ago, one of the first major bills I worked on was a bill sponsored by Senator Jeb Bradley to allow the securitization of costs, stranded costs, regarding the Bow coal plant in Merrimack. I worked hard with Senator Bradley to revise the statute that had been passed in 2000 to allow securitization of some stranded costs for utilities, to add the scrubber from the Bow plant to the list of things that could be done. And I'm here this morning to, once again, add to the list of things that could be securitized by bonds. This morning's topic is storm recovery costs. So in 2023 and 2024, as you will hear later testimony, we had a couple of major winter storms that required a lot of money to restore power to customers in New Hampshire. As you know, when you have a big storm like that, frequently you have to hire crews from other states, or in our case, even other countries, talking about folks from Canada, to bring utilities crews down to help us restore electricity service to constituents here in New Hampshire when the power goes out. Those costs can escalate fairly quickly, and the utility is perfectly entitled to recover those costs as long as they're prudent. And so we ratepayers end up getting saddled with those costs. Well, another way to handle those costs would be to bond them, to reduce the impact on ratepayers so that we wouldn't get hit with large increases in our delivery costs, our distribution rate costs, in order to pay for the recovery from these storms. So that's what House Bill 1539 essentially does. It's a straightforward bill that amends existing statutes to add storm recovery costs to the list of expenses the Public Utilities Commission may allow utilities to securitize. It's no more complicated than that. You can get all the details you need from the folks who will appear after myself. I just want to point out that this bill passed the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee 18-0. It was unanimous that we should pass this bill. We did make one minor modification to the bill, and that is on page 2, starting on line 15, where it says the commission shall issue a final decision on such application for financing of storm costs within a period not to exceed 180 days of its receipt. The original language of the bill had 90 days, and we extended that to 180 days. But that's the only change that we made. The bill then went to the floor of the House, and because it's a -FN bill, it was originally destined to go to the Finance Committee, but after it passed the House on a voice vote, the Finance Committee looked at it and realized it had no impact on the state budget or state utility costs. And so they waived off deliberations in the Finance Committee. And so the bill comes before you here today, and I certainly hope you'll look favorably upon it. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Senator Rosenwald, would you like to ask a question?
Yes. Thank you. The title says it authorizes the utilities to issue AAA-rated bonds. Do the utilities rate their bonds themselves, or do the rating agencies rate those bonds like they do other bonds?
The rating agencies rate the bonds based on the quality of the bond, but utility bonds typically are very highly rated because utilities can easily recover the costs, the borrowing costs that generated the bond in the first place, since they're authorized to do so in rates via decisions by public utilities commissions.
So this is
The
way
AAA rating in the title of the bill may be a little optimistic. The bonds may be AA rated. I don't know, but
This potentially can save the ratepayers some.
it is. It will save ratepayers money.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative. Oh,
I'm sorry. Real quick one. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we had a letter from Mark Brown of Consumer Energy Alliance strongly in support of this, and he did note that many, many other states grant this authority. And is that your understanding as well?
Yes, Mr. Brown testified before our committee in the public hearing on this bill. He not only pointed out that many states allow this kind of securitization, but he also shared with us the amount of money that these states save their ratepayers by securitizing these costs. And the amounts were staggering in the millions of dollars. So this kind of tool is widely used within the industry, and It's widely used here in New Hampshire already. It's been around since 2000. We securitized stranded costs for Seabrook, for the divestiture of generation assets for the utilities. And now we're just suggesting that we expand that list to include storm recovery costs.
That's it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Joe? Casey? You don't have to run.
I like the effort.
Yeah. You hit your button, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Joe Casey. I'm international rep for the IBEW. And I'm here today on behalf of Local 104, Local 1837, and our IBEW International. And I'm pleased to offer our support for HB 1539. The IBEW represents approximately 4,000 highly skilled people here in the state of New Hampshire, which includes electrical workers for most of the New Hampshire electrical utilities and the outside line workers for scores of electrical contractors throughout the state and region. Our members are first responders on all major outages, and in this role have experienced firsthand the increased frequency and significant impact that these storms are having in our region. Considering this, it is important that the state enact policies to protect utilities and their customers, especially customers of smaller utilities, from the unexpected financial impacts of catastrophic natural events. HB 1539 protects electrical consumers, utilities, as well as thousands of working families that rely on these companies to be strong and stable. While maintaining appropriate regulation, oversight, and review, HB 1539 would give New Hampshire and the state utilities the ability to structure these storm costs in a manner that maintains affordability for our New Hampshire electrical customers by reducing the finance rate and structuring favorable terms throughout state-backed bonds. Securitization of major storm costs would not be unique to New Hampshire. New York, California, Texas, Louisiana, and Florida have all established similar policies through legislation or regulatory action to maintain the costs associated with major storms and national disasters that have impacted their states. Given the likelihood that these major storms may impact our states for years to come, it is important New Hampshire have an effective mechanism for securing the costs of these events. I also have a letter, which I won't read, from my international vice president, Michael Monahan, who is the vice president for all the states in New England, which I'll submit to you. With that concludes my testimony, and I'll take any questions you may have.
Well done. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Licata.
Good morning. Michael Licata representing Eversource Energy in support of the legislation. I'll be brief. I think Representative Vos did an excellent job, as did Mr. Casey, covering the broad strokes, but happy to answer any more detailed questions that the committee may have. Just at a high level, securitization is a financing tool where specific financial assets are isolated, bundled together, and then turned into a bond. In New Hampshire state statute, these are called rate reduction bonds. As Representative Vos mentioned, they've been used several times in the past. The purpose of securitization, the reason that the commission would approve a proposal and a utility would offer it, is to lower the monthly bill impact to customers. This is achieved because the securitized bond can be paid over a longer period of time, and also, as discussed, can achieve a AAA rating bond, which is a lower interest rate than a utility's traditional cost of capital. RSA 369B, which is the existing securitization statute, was adopted in 2000, as you heard, and it authorizes the PUC to review and approve very specific items that can be eligible for securitization. This legislation before you today would simply expand that existing authority to include storm cost recovery. We're supporting this bill because of the numerous severe weather events that we had to respond to between 2022 and 2024. During that period, it was a very active 2 winters. We responded to 23 major storms. 4 out of the top 10 most impactful storms that we have on record, as well as the single most damaging storm, which was in April of 2024. Folks might remember it around the solar eclipse that drew many, many visitors to the state. That single event knocked out power to over 332,000 customers. It took us 5 days to restore at a cost of $113 million. Just to put that in perspective, the previous most impactful storm, the 2008 ice storm, knocked out electricity to 322,000 customers. That took us 14 days to restore, which is why everyone remembers it so well, at a cost of over $72 million. The total amount that we incurred responding to all of those major events was approximately $450 million, which is why we're requesting the authorization to pursue securitization. It's important to note that the legislation before you today does not in any way weaken or alter the review of the prudency of those charges by the Public Utilities Commission. This doesn't create a shortcut or a fast track, and that only costs that have been deemed prudent through a separate proceeding by the Public Utilities Commission would be eligible to be bundled and securitized through an additional proceeding. All parties, Consumer Advocate, Department of Energy, any others, would be have the opportunity to be a full party to those securitization proceedings. And just the final note is this legislation is purely enabling. There is no requirement that a utility utilizes the tool of securitization, nor is there a requirement that the Public Utilities Commission approves those securitization proposals. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the committee may have.
Okay, Senator Waters?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Michael. You know, I appreciate Eversource's concern about affordability and the cost, and I understand that this will certainly save money over time. I did wonder if you could comment a little bit on the fiscal note, particularly, you know, because that's recoverable expense. This is not affecting the state's cost, but would you agree that by moving to the 180 days as they did in the House, that might reduce some of the time pressure that might require more the consultants in the DOE and in the PUC?
Absolutely, and that was the intent of that change, was to relieve some of the time pressure. I think it was originally, I forget if it was 30 or 60 days. I would note the last time securitization was used, as Representative Vos mentioned, it was around the divestiture and the recovery of the scrubber. That proceeding.
Don't talk to me about the scrubber, okay?
Well, that proceeding, I will point out, was a bit more complicated because they had to wait for the sale of the plants before determining the final amount. That took a total of 7 months, and I don't believe any additional consultants were hired by the PUC. So that was the intention, to relieve some of those pressures.
Thank you.
Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What's the bond rating that Eversource has?
I believe we're double B.
Double B?
Yep.
But, so somehow you would issue AAA bonds?
Yeah, so and this is the crux of the authorization for securitization. So once the Public Utilities Commission makes a determination on prudency, and we have the number that we're trying to recover, we would work with credit agencies and financial institutions to put together the filing that we would make to the Public Utilities Commission, and that would be a separate charge. Essentially, the bond would be issued and it would be repaid through a separate charge on customers' bills. So there is a strong financial backing, and it has the essentially the support of law and the commission decision to get the full recovery of the bond payments. So that's why we're able to achieve the AAA rating. So it's not Eversource itself that issues the bond. It's actually a special use entity that we would create for that specific purpose. And that's what we have done in the past.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Senator Pearl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mike, for coming in. I just want to make sure I understand the process. So the storm happens, you do the repairs, you understand the financial impact, and then you submit for the bond? Is that what happens?
So basically, there's a couple of steps in there. So a major storm happens, and we restore, we encumber costs, we charge to each individual storm, so we have an accounting. We then subsequently, after the fact, make a filing to the Public Utilities Commission. They review the prudency of all of our decision-making, expenses. You know, it really gets quite granular. Why did you spend so much on hotel rooms for contractors or meals? They issue an order that says, okay, you spent X, Y is recoverable, we've deemed prudent. That amount that has been deemed prudent, we can then bundle together and make another filing to the Public Utilities Commission to say, okay, in this case, we have $450 million. Some amount of that will be deemed prudent. We're going to take that amount, securitize it. Here's the financing proposal. They would review that, approve it, and then the bond would be issued.
So would you envision this being like an annual filing that you would do, or would you do more than multiple years as you discussed here?
Yeah, I think we would bundle assuming we get approval for the 2 years that I talked about, which were extraordinarily active and impactful years, that far outside the norm. We would bundle those 2 years together, have a single securitization filing, and there are sort of updates that happen on an annual basis, but it would be a single bond for those 2 years.
Okay. What is a normal year for activity?
Yeah, so to take the previous year, I want to say it was in the range of $17 million. In fact, sorry, I got asked this question in the House, and I did have some numbers to share. My apologies. Yeah, it really does range between $45 million between 2016 and 2017. In 2018 to 2019, it was 14. You know, obviously in 2022, 2023, it was 222 million. So you can see the level of scale and impact. Those were extreme events.
How has this winter been? More normal?
Much more.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, thank you very much. And our illustrious Josh Elliott, the Prince of Energy. Ah, yes, he's, you know, Prince of Energy, yes. Wow. Department. Welcome, sir.
I don't think I've ever gotten such a warm introduction in any committee.
Stick around.
I appreciate it. So I will be brief. For the record, Josh Elliott, Director of the Division of Policy and Programs with the New Hampshire Department of Energy. The department is neutral on this bill. I am not going to repeat a lot of what has already been said by previous testifiers. The department does view this as a way to potentially reduce the cost of these storms that, as Mr. Licata had testified to, are pretty impactful in terms of rate impact. As he had mentioned, this is purely enabling. It does not require the PUC to do any of these things or to issue or to authorize the issuance of these bonds. I'm going to point on page 2, lines. Let's see, I just lost it here. Lines 10 following, just to highlight sort of what the PUC would consider when looking at a proposal by a utility to do some of this bonding. A determination that such a rate reduction bonds are in the public interest and may be based on reasons including, but not limited to, showing that retail customers would experience lower overall costs if such a rate reduction bonds are issued as compared to the traditional recovery calculated over the same time period, or that such financing would mitigate bill impacts to retail customers as compared with alternative methods of financing, et cetera, et cetera. So you could envision a scenario of where, say, their cost of capital is actually lower than the interest rate, right? You could imagine an interest rate environment of where those are reversed, or where it'd actually be more expensive to do this, which I would presume that the utility would then look at that, the difference between those two numbers, and say, no, it doesn't make sense. The PUC is going to tell us, no, we're not even going to bother filing it. So there are there is that flexibility for the PUC to make sure that as compared to the status quo, that this mechanism will actually result in bill savings for customers. My last point I just want to raise, even though the title does reference AAA rated bonds, it's actually nowhere in the statute that it requires AAA rated bonds, but just as long as that delta, right, their cost of capital rate is greater than whatever they would be getting through a bond. And again, as Mr. Licata had pointed out, given the authority in statute plus a PUC order allowing this to happen, bond rating agencies would look on those very favorably in terms of when they go to rate those individual bond issues. So,
Senator Waters for the question.
Yeah, just on this, Representative Vose, is that something you could just, when we get this out of the Senate, maybe you could ask, I don't know whether we do the enrolled bill amendment or that you do it in the House, just to get change the title to, I think it just should read to issue bonds.
Agreed.
Okay, thanks. We'll follow up.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, you are our final speaker, and you did it so eloquently.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Want
With
executive?
that,
Want executive?
yeah, we're going to close the hearing. And is there a
I'll
motion?
move
to
exec.
Okay, seconded by Senator Avard. All in favor of exec? Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none.
I'll move out to pass.
And I will second that motion. Discussion.
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
I think we just discussed getting a committee amendment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just, yeah,
Oh, jeez. Thank you.
I apologize.
I think we just discussed getting a committee amendment to take AAA out of the title,
You want to do that?
So what is it? I'm
to
sorry.
take AAA rated.
We can't amend titles in committee. Has
But
to
we've
be-
done that recently, either in this committee or in finance.
I'll
I think
follow
it was
up after.
finance. We did it in this room.
Yes, we did.
We did.
all right.
Usually we can, but it's true that the rating is not referred to in
Well, let's do
the
it.
language of the bill.
So I'll second your amendment to strike AAA rated from the title.
Are we all amenable to that?
Is there any issue with that?
Is there a problem with that? Nothing, Mr. Chairman? Good. So moved and seconded by Senator Pearl.
Sure.
And discussion. Joshua, would you read that back to us? What is our committee amendment?
You're just striking AAA and green bonds, correct?
The bond stays.
Yeah, just that phrase, yeah.
All right. All in favor of removing that?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Is there a motion to move as ought to pass as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Consent.
All right. Consent by Senator Pearl, seconded by Senator Waters. I will take this one up. I never take them up.
All in favor of consent?
Yeah, after we all
Aye.
say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Motion to move out of exec? All in favor? Aye. I am. Yeah. And so with that, thank you very much. All right. And the next one is HB 1205. And Senator Rochefort's going to be taking this one out. So, Senator Rocher, do you want to speak? Okay. We take care of our senators, you know. Okay, all right.
Good morning.
Representative.
I just want to make sure it still is morning.
Yeah, really.
You got it.
Tell us about turtles.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and senators of the committee. For the record, my name's Representative Arnold Davis. I represent COAS District 2, which includes Milan, Dummer, Stark, Errol, Clarksville, Pittsburgh, and most of the unincorporated places. I'd just like to say House Bill 1205 came out of the House Committee with a unanimous bipartisan ought to pass recommendation of 16-0 and put on the consent calendar. It's a very simple bill. It's only 5 lines. It prohibits state and county lands from from being in a timber carbon sequestration program. The idea behind this, these lands were purchased with taxpayers' money for specific timber purposes. And the reason behind that was to create jobs for loggers, for truckers, for people in the wood products industry like sawmills, biomass plants, things like that. Also, it creates product for the wood product industry. So that's the idea behind it. It was brought to my attention this morning if the Senate would consider a small amendment. If you look on lines 3 and lines 4, where it says carbon sequestration programs in both lines, I would like you to consider to put timber before that, because I was made aware to me there are different types of carbon sequestration programs, and even though this is in RSA 79, it does pertain solely to timber, and I think that would make it cleaner and clearer.
Put it exactly where?
Lines 3 and lines 4, right before carbon sequestration in both lines, it would say timber. Yeah, it would just keep it clean and specific.
Yeah, well, is he done?
Yes.
Oh, yes, Senator Waters.
So I heard from Jim O'Brien, couldn't be here today. And just to clarify, ownership here is fee simple ownership?
I'm not sure.
Well, there are easements, other ways in which property is owned. And so the question here is whether it is specifically fee owned property.
I apologize
I mean,
for not
ask
knowing the answer
first.
to that.
I can ask the Attorney General, whatever, but I think that's an important clarification because there's a complex variety of easements that might have been delivered by the Forest Society to the state and so on and so forth that might impinge on what had been the intent of the easement. So
Okay.
I think it's fee simple ownership is what is understood here. And maybe we don't need to clarify that, but maybe you could check as well.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Senator Rochefort.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. David Rochefort, Senate District 1. I was on the list to introduce the bill, and I figured rather than cross my list now, I just want to just stay and give my support for this bill. It does seem pretty straightforward. And I think really, the prime sponsor addressed this a little bit, but I wanted to just park on it for a minute is, these are monies and these are lands that were bought with public funds for a certain purpose. And one of those things that, we look at is public use and public benefit and how those properties are going to be used. We know that in the state of New Hampshire, we have public lands for a lot of different things, whether it be state parks, rail trails, places that are for hunting and forest industry. And this would just ensure that those lands aren't locked up in a timber carbon sequestration program. And the reason why that's important, I think, is for this committee is, those contracts that are entered into can be, in some regards, restrictive, particularly to the timber industry. And I know it's, what we agree on now when we make a purchase or have purchased in the past for these lands, we might need that land in the future. And if it's locked up into one of these programs, it takes our ability to use that in the future. And I think there have been some states, and I think there are some folks that may talk later that have done that, and there's maybe been some regret to that, but I don't have all the details on that. And I also want to note that we were here about a year ago talking about carbon sequestration, and there was a lot of different folks, on different sides of this issue. And I think it's notable that a lot of those folks that are on the sign-in sheet who maybe were at odds on carbon sequestration are now supportive of this together. So I think that's a good point to make, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, we have a very long list of questions for you. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you see the terror over my face as I'm looking at the time here? Yeah.
It's all good. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Senator. Let's see. Robert Johnson. Doesn't say if you're in support, ambivalent, or opposed, but it says you want to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Rob Johnson, representing Farm Bureau as a Federation's policy director. And the prime sponsor, Representative Arnold, spoke to our issue is there are approximately somewhere between 500 and 1,000 acres in the state, farmland owned by the counties, many of them the old current county farms, and a couple instances or the old county farms that farmers around the state, local farmers utilize and lease. And our concern is that we'd like to make clear in the statute that this would not affect, there are USDA, Natural Resource Conservation Service, program standards dealing with no-till and cover cropping of soils and that encourage the sequestration of carbon for soil health purposes. And again, we'd just like to make clear by specifying this is for timber purposes, that there's no confusion there. And we believe it is in line with the intent of the statute. Thank you.
Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. And our final speaker is Jason Stock.
I'd like to have the department representative have a question about the ownership.
Okay.
Come on.
Yep.
Good morning.
And your button?
Oh, yeah, hit the button. Good morning. For the record, I'm Jason Stock. I'm Executive Director of the New Hampshire Timberland Owners Association, and I appreciate the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 1205. As Senator Rochefort had mentioned in his testimony, that we are one of those timber people that we are supporting this. As an association, we recognize forest carbon. You know, we support sustainable management, public and private lands. And we also have members that harvest timber on state lands. In fact, state lands are an important timber resource. The state does a very good job at managing their lands, and it's a very important timber resource for local mills. And lastly, I'll just mention that we recognize that sustainable management can include carbon. Managing for timber, for recreation, wildlife, and carbon, they're not mutually exclusive. But when it comes to fee ownership, and I want to thank Senator Waters for raising that point, but when it comes to state fee ownership land, we believe just what you had heard the sponsor say, as well as Senator Rochefort, is that there was public money used with an expectation of management there. And we think it would be disingenuous to apply a subsequent encumbrance on that property or across that property after it had been purchased with a management expectation. And so for that reason, we come today in support of this, and I'd be happy to try and answer any questions. Thank you.
Senator Waters.
Yeah, thanks. As again, I'm not an attorney, but I wanted to get some clarification. Maybe the department can offer it to us. But I think what is meant here is fee simple ownership. If it would, I think it would help Nature Conservancy and other people involved with easements and so on and so forth. Were we to specify the language here, it would read no fee simple ownership land owned by the state. Is that okay with you?
I would agree with that, and it sounds like there's an amendment already being cooked up with the timber reference that the sponsor had mentioned. I think that clarification.
Okay, good.
Our read,
help. I really
our read of this bill was it applies to fee simple ownership.
Yeah, that's what I assume, but this I think would be useful.
Otherwise, you could.
Line, what, 3?
Yeah, when we exact, I think it's pretty simple.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you need any further questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
You want to hear from the department?
Are you good with what we just discussed? Yeah, that's the fine clarification. Okay, good. Thank you.
That's it. Good job. You deserve a raise. With that, no further questions. We're going to close the hearing and motion to move into exec. Seconded by Senator McConkey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's take this one up.
I move up to pass on 1205.
Okay, discussion,
And I'd like to move an amendment, committee amendment,
committee amendment, yep.
so I'll be slow. So on lines 3 and 4, we will insert the word timber before carbon. You good with that?
Mhm.
You also want it on line 1, timber carbon sequestration?
Yes, thank you.
I think it makes sense.
I bet we do. And then you good? All right, so I think the way to do it is to say, have it read on lines 3 to 4. No fee simple ownership lands owned by the state. So it would read no fee simple ownership lands owned by the state.
You want no fee simple ownership land owned by the state?
Yes. That's it?
I'll second.
Discussion, all in favor of the amendments?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to,
Senator Pearl,
Yes.
you're the timber guy. Go ahead.
I'll move
Go
on
for
past
it.
second by Senator McConkey, discussion, all in favor as, ought to pass as amended.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What's that?
Consent,
Second.
Senator Pearl, Senator McConkey, all in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed? Who would like to take this out? Okay. And I think we do more consents than any other committee.
Go.
I don't know,
yes.
E&A's pretty good on that.
Is that right?
Yeah, we're, most of our bills.
We'll have to step up.
All right, so Senator Pearl, would you like to consider 445?
445, I would, and I would
Move,
ask.
move on to pass?
Yep, the attorney head here,
Before we discuss, move on to pass, seconded by Senator Pearl.
Yep.
Motion by Senator Abar, discussion.
Well, I'm gonna move amendment. I'm gonna move amendment number, I gotta get it here, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah,
Is it 0141S?
yes, 0141S. I'd like to move that,
Second for discussion.
and I'd like to
I don't-
recognize Attorney Head to come explain it.
Rep-
If you remember, I presented this last week. I presented this last week, and I just couldn't remember the details, so I've asked the department to come in and sort of
Look at that.
Welcome.
There's been a lot of exciting entries into this committee today.
I appreciate your patience in waiting all of this time.
I promise I did not nap. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Richard Head. I'm with the Department of Environmental Services Legal Unit. You'll remember that Senate Bill 445 essentially was designed to eliminate this internal appeal loop that we have within the department, where a party who's the subject of a licensing action or a fine action has to appeal that action with a hearing to the within the agency, and then if it's adverse, has to seek reconsideration before they can ultimately leave and do their appeal to one of the four councils. What this amendment does, it does a couple things. One, we identified a couple sections that we missed because the bill itself does only, for the most part, one small thing, but has to do it over and over and over again throughout all the statutory sections that would apply. And we realized on review that we missed a couple sections. So in the amendment, page 1, line 6, that caught one of the sections that we had missed relative to the Subsurface Bureau. Beginning on line 23, this was a request during the course of the committee meeting that with regard to a license action, that license action would be suspended for 30 days or until the council decision was completed, as long as the licensing action was not based upon an imminent threat to human health or the environment. So that request was made during the hearing on the bill. On page 2, beginning on line 3, again, that's a section that we had missed. So this relates to the Air Resources Bureau. And it was just again, a section we had missed. Line 7 is another request that came out of the original hearing, and this relates to fine appeals. And in this section, the fine appeal would be suspended for 30 days or until the conclusion of the council meeting, whichever is later. And that one does not have a caveat on it, so that would just become automatically suspended pending the appeal. And then finally, beginning on line 11 is a repeal. We added one more section, Roman 10, which is in the Air Resources Bureau, just another section we had missed that had hearings built into that section, and it's a repeal of the description of the hearing process for air permits or for within the Air Resources Bureau. So that Roman 10 in the repeal section is new. And that is it.
And that is what I meant to explain last week.
Just like that, right?
Nicely done,
Just
Senator.
like that.
Thank you, Senator Waters, with the question.
Yeah, and this, you know, Senator Pearl chime in. I don't know who gave us all these suggested amendments to this.
The department wrote them.
Pardon?
The department wrote these, the bill, the
Well,
language.
I'll just mention, there was one we had that said amend section 46 as follows, and it says after 46, new paragraph, it says 4, an agency shall be exempt from the requirements of this chapter to provide for an adjudicative proceeding prior to making a final decision. If such final decision is subject to appeal or notice to the board without jurisdiction over such agency or divisions, of that's existing language. But then add, unless based on a risk to an immediate risk to human health or the environment, the agency decision under this paragraph shall not become effective for 30 days following the stated decision, or if an appeal is filed to a council or board with jurisdiction until the council or board issues a decision. Did you see that, or?
So, yeah, so you're on, I didn't quite catch it, but you're on the appeal or the amendment, line 25, that's Roman 4. Is that where?
So you think that covers that? Okay, I'm sorry, it just got put back.
It did. So in
there
the amendment.
45 instead of 46. Okay.
That's the problem. Yep.
All right. good.
That's because
I
the numbering
understand
changed because of a
All
deletion
right,
that
all right. So
occurred.
look-
So that's absolutely right.
that. And it looks like all the others then are incorporated, but that's just the one because of the different sections. I wanted to
And
make
it
sure.
did change. You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Good, thank
I
you.
forgot to mention that.
Good.
Further questions?
I am good.
Thank you very much for your support and
Thank
for
you.
explaining for our senator.
And
He
again, your
explained it brilliantly.
patience. I appreciate your patience today. I know it was a long day.
So the motion is ought to pass on the amendment. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Is there a motion to pass as amended?
So moved.
Seconded by Senator McConkey. Discussion. All in favor of ought to pass as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? All right. All right. Senator Rosenwald seconds. All in favor of ought to pass as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none? Who would like to take this
So
out?
consent, do we want to do consent?
I think that's what he meant to vote.
Oh,
on,
I'm
not
seeing
on.
it. All right. Yeah.
And I will
Consent?
take it
All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Seeing none? Senator Pearl will take this one out. Any discussion on any other bills at this time?
442. Thank you again. I want to move on to pass,
Is there a second?
Second.
and then I want to offer amendment 1087S.
Second.
Or do we have a different amendment? No, that's the one. Should be right up here.
What is it?
1087S.
108. Oh, it's 120.
This one here.
Oh, I don't have it. Seconded by Senator Avard.
So what this does is it basically removes all of the bill except for the part about changing the health certificate to the official certificate of transfer. And as you recall, this bill originally was going to put some requirements on our rescues that the commissioner had asked for, and through my conversation with him, he agreed to just let that go for now, but he wanted to make sure the portion of the bill that fixed this technical issue about where it's referenced as health certificates, changed it to official certificates of transfer, because that is technically the new name for it. So the bill, the remaining part of the bill has been removed, and the only part that remains is this technical change to help the commissioner get things in line where they need to be with the right verbiage.
Okay, Senator Waters with a question.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a good way to go right now. I do think that, let's continue to work on some other things in the bill. Because I think there are other things here that, really could be useful, but it just wasn't ready. So I'd be glad to help this summer or whenever.
So do you want
100%
to
agree.
put a pause on the bill or?
No, it's good. This is good to know, but let's keep working on other stuff. Yeah.
So all in favor of amendment 1087?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'll move on to pass as amended.
Seconded by Senator McConkey. Discussion. All in favor of ought to pass as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Consent? Yes.
5-0. Motion to consent, seconded by Senator Rosenwald. Senator McConkey made the motion. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed? Senator Pearl?
I'll take it up.
And I think that's it for today.
We could do 447 if you at least discuss it, and I wanted to discuss another matter.
Okay.
So if you wouldn't mind looking at 447.
447?
Yeah.
Seconded by Senator Rayburn.
So, remember the one issue that was there, that was raised by, Josh? I mean, maybe we'll wait on this, but I do want to, just mention what I have, and I'll give it to you, because the amendment isn't drafted yet. But, Josh raised the issue of, definition of educational institution.
Yes.
So, let's do this next week, but I wanted the people to see what I will have and how we've decided to handle it, rather than go into the whole non-educational, education institution law, which is complicated, and it's really under a bonding, statute. That what we could put in here is essentially what the definitions in those other statutes is by saying nonprofit education institution or any district or entity created for a special purpose, administered or funded by any of the above mentioned governmental units. Such districts or entities include public housing and authorities, and then reference the citation there under the federal statute. And I think what's good about this definition, and I think something I've always wanted to make sure, is that we will now, it could be charter schools, it could be other nonprofit educational institutions, as well as schools, universities, and so on. I wanted to make sure that we had those other kinds of educational institutions could take advantage of this as well. And then we get the appropriate, the belts and suspenders here is the federal definition of nonprofit.
So next week we'll have.
Yeah, next week. But I think that handles that. And I think the only other thing was one simple elision. But otherwise, I think we'll be good to go on that.
All right. Thank you. So next week we'll have that, we'll exec this one for sure.
And can I mention one other thing?
You may.
Mr. Chairman, so we passed Senate Bill, we passed Senate Bill 585, Senator Murphy's bill that was mostly about the water bacteria issue. In the amendment that he brought in, I think that there's something inadvertent there where he, in a blanket way, says that the state may set no standards lower than the EPA. Now that particularly affects PFAS. We went to a lower standard that we got ahead of the EPA on PFAS, and it's a good thing we did because, they eventually came around to our standard on that. But let's say that the EPA now decides to eliminate all PFAS standards, which it has been proposed, or for asbestos, or for lead, which has also been proposed, that the department would like to retain that possibility so that we can protect folks here. And I think that if we send it over to the House that way, that it would create given the PFAS folks over there. So what I'm preparing is a floor amendment. I'll talk to Senator Murphy, but please take a look at it. The floor amendment will simply strike out that one phrase at the beginning of his amendment about whether the state can implement anything.
Does the bill have an FN?
I don't think so.
Maybe it would if you don't want to do it on the floor, maybe we
I think
ask
it
them
doesn't.
to be remanded back to committee. and
We
work
can,
on
we
it
can
here.
just do a quick floor amendment.
Well,
Either way. just a
yeah,
suggestion.
but I do want to make sure that Senator Murphy's okay with it.
Yeah.
As I think the bill's a good idea and so on, but just I think that could be a deal breaker.
So we'll consider the floor amendment and,
Yeah.
for next week.
So your caucus will have it.
Yeah, by then, yeah, and we'll.
Thanks.
go into
Thank you.
And you'll talk to Senator Murphy on
I
that as
shall,
well.
yeah.
All right, Senator,
I want to move Senate Bill 535 ought to pass.
seconded by,
And I want to offer, second, I'm sorry.
second by, Senator McConkey.
I want to offer floor amendment amendment 974S.
Seconded by Senator Avard for discussion.
So I talked about this bill last week. This was the residential breeder and a bill that we put in, and I have worked with Trish Morris and addressed the concerns the legal concerns she raised within the bill. That there were some inconsistencies about pet vendor and commercial kennel. I'm sorry, I'm just making sure that I have the right amendment.
Do we have that?
Yeah, 974, you should have it. I passed it out last week.
All right, I do, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
974, thank you, good.
So again, I worked with the folks that had concerns. I recognize that it may not address every one of their concerns, but we clearly defined that change from 30 to 50 only exempted this residential breeder from the ability, from home inspection. Exempts them from nothing else. They still have to register as a pet vendor. And they still have to follow all of the other rules. The only thing it exempts them from is that in-home inspection, because they are not able to comply with the impervious service portion. Again, these breeders serve a section of our communities who enjoy having these. It's primarily purebred dogs, and it provides a good service to them. And this would be a great benefit, I believe, to our program that we have, and this little bit of relief would help to help these residential breeders to provide those animals in a manner that their customers want better.
Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you, and I really appreciate the efforts made on this, and particularly the definition of residential breeder, which I think clarifies what we mean by this and not a separate breeding facility, and so I'm glad this came forward in this version, Senator Pearl.
Thank you.
Further discussion? All in favor of Amendment 0974S?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, ought to pass as amended. Is there a
I'll
motion?
move out to pass as amended.
Seconded by
Second.
Senator Waters. Discussion? All in favor of ought to pass as amended?
Aye.
Thank you. Any
We're
opposed?
with you, we're with you.
Any opposed? We had that thing on you're opposed? Yes. Senator McConkey opposes?
Would you oppose consent? No. All right, I'll move consent.
So Senator McConkey opposed, so it's 4-1, ought to pass. OTP and consent. All in favor of consent?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll take it.
Seeing none, Senator Pearl will take this one out. And is there a motion to move out of exec?
So move.
Seconded by Senator McConkey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. Oh, your time.
We only have SB 447, SB 593 left.
That is correct. Let's see, what's our deadline?
Yeah.
All right.
So the right answer, is yes.
Good, thank you.
Gracias. So, thank you. Thanks for shopping, science, no, not science and technology, energy.